and welcome to a podcast that we definitely have a name for at the moment, and are definitely not just doing for the sake of it. Seems like everybody and their nan has made a podcast these days, so we thought we'd try our hands at it. So I'd like to introduce myself. I am Jay Jarvis. I am a fan of F1, have been for a little bit, and I'm co-hosting this with
the flying kipper, Kip Morgan. Yeah, I've been an F1 fan of over 10 years, since the glorious day of the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2012, which is a modern classic. I also follow a lot of NASCAR. I began watching IndyCar this year. Going to plan to watch DTM, NASCAR Xfinity Series, and Formula 2 as well.
Yeah, you're a little bit more in tune with wider motorsports than I am. So I guess we'll start ourselves off with our favourite drivers and teams from F1, because that's all that anybody really cares about when listening to a podcast.
Yeah. I've got a bit of an odd take, really, because when I watch F1, I'm always looking out for Haas. I love an underdog team. I like that they can do so much with so little. You know, last year they were fighting for 6th, and I think they ultimately deserved 6th in the Constructors' Championship, if it weren't for that very lucky result by Alpine. But props to their drivers.
That was a very good performance from them.
Yeah, props to their drivers for a double podium in the wet.
I mean, the car is a boat, so it was well conditioned.
True. I can only describe it as a boat as well. But Haas, yeah, I've always liked their liveries, to be honest. I think they've always had pretty good liveries. I mean, unpopular opinion, but I really do like their 2021, the Russian flag livery.
It's a controversial one. I get what you mean. It does look...
I think they made it work with the car.
Yeah, it did work quite well.
Yeah. I've never really had a favourite driver.
No.
I was a Hamilton supporter, many years ago.
Yes, same. Yeah, unfortunately.
Because he was just the guy you looked up to.
Exactly. Yeah.
When he was being successful. I do like Verstappen as well. I've really liked him when he first started in 2015. You could already tell he was really gritty and raw.
Yeah.
I remember vividly Belgian Grand Prix 2015 when he went around the outside of Felipe Nasr at Blanchimont. It's like a 180 mile an hour corner, like it was nothing. And I think he's just so ballsy. I really enjoyed it. And when he got to Red Bull and won his first race, that was pretty cool.
That was
I've never disliked him.
Fair enough. I would say I'm of the same opinion of Max. I've been a bit of a fan of his for a while. I started watching F1 properly in about 2019, so I'm not one of those modern Drive to Survive fans.
Good.
God forbid. I first started out with Sebastian Vettel, of all people.
Wow.
Really liked him. It's because I started to develop a hatred for Lewis Hamilton because the entirety of my family supported him. And I was just like, damn, I just don't like his dominance. So I was always rooting for the guy that was against dominance. So I started out with Vettel and his fated 2019 season in Ferrari. Missed his last ever Grand Prix win in F1 because of a dog walk. So yeah, that was an annoying one. But then when he moved to Aston Martin and lost all relevance in a championship fight, I decided to turn my attention towards Mr. Max Verstappen, seeing that he was probably the best one to challenge Lewis. And lo and behold, I had a very happy December, whatever it was. Was it like 20th?
I can't remember. I'm not going to pretend like I remember, but I remember that day.
Yes, that was a very good day.
That was great. I danced on the floor in front of my mum.
I didn't. I was with the rest of my family, so I felt pressured not to overdo it. But I was very happy. Ooh, what motorsport events are you most looking forward to this year, Kip?
I'd have to say, looking forward to the Indy 500. Now that I'm following that, or at least watching it somewhat closely. In terms of NASCAR, the Daytona 500's already happened, but the Coke 600 is a massive event on the schedule as well. Although it's not always the best one to watch.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'll see how it goes. NASCAR goes to Mexico this year, so I'm quite interested to see how that will pan out. They go to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
Ah, yes,
Yeah,
the
where-
classic.
Yeah. So I'm quite interested to see how that plays out.
I suppose that would be quite similar to a COTA race, because you can actually quite easily compare that to other
Yeah.
series that race there. Yeah.
Yeah. In F1, probably just the British Grand Prix again.
Yeah.
It's always a great atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of Lando Norris fans.
True that. I think it will be a little bit different of a dynamic this year because you've got Hamilton in Ferrari.
That's true. Yeah.
I think a lot of people will back that. You'll see a lot of red
Yeah.
in the stands.
Yeah. Half the Tifosi will ship over from Italy.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the Monaco Grand Prix, with its 2 pit stops required now.
I don't think it will change anything really.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Do you think Bernie Collins' suggestion of drivers or at the back of the grid to just lap 1 come in, change tyres, lap 2 come in, change tyres, and just sit out on the hards for the entire race and hope there's a safety car to overtake people? Do you think that'll happen at all?
If it was me behind the wheel, that would happen. I feel like some kind of regulation or loophole will be
Yeah.
patched over at some point before then to prevent that. Because I'd absolutely see someone, if they had a really bad qualifying, they would just sandbag it.
It's Sauber.
Yeah. But even that, if you think of like a Perez situation where the car shouldn't be down there
but
it just is,
Yeah.
then you do something different and you go
yeah.
along on the hards and whatever and get that mandatory stop out of the way, train at the back of the field, and then when they all stop, you're up front.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see whether that happens. I guess the FIA being the FIA, they'll probably ruin all the fun and make some regulation that stops you doing that.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I'm not really looking forward to any specific race this season. I'm just more looking forward to how close it's going to be. I think it'll be interesting, at least maybe at a few tracks. Monza always gives a good championship race.
True.
Thinking back to Verstappen v Hamilton, when Verstappen almost took Hamilton's head clean off without the halo. Back in 21, that was quite funny. 2020, there's been quite a few good races at Monza.
Yeah, despite how people say it goes, because everyone's got low drag and there isn't enough overtaking, I think the context of the race always works out really nicely.
Yeah.
Who won it last year? Leclerc?
I think so, yeah, because that was like the one race that Ferrari were because it was all the images of him with the Tifosi.
I genuinely didn't watch it. I'm really sorry to admit that. I missed quite a few races last year.
Yeah.
Because I started just not focusing on F1 so much. I was really into NASCAR, still am, but I will be paying more attention this season because I know it's going to be closer.
From what I remember, I think Lando bottled it into turn 1 to Piastri, and then Leclerc did a reverse Piastri from Hungary, I think it was, and just stayed out on the hards really long. And just kind of won it out of absolutely nowhere, despite the McLarens having the much quicker car for the entire weekend.
I thought there was some kind of Norris Piastri controversy.
Yeah, I think what happened, because as per Lando Norris's usual these days, apparently, he bottled it into turn 1 to Piastri, I think, who just went round the outside.
Yeah.
And then they had a bit of a squabble into, I don't know the name of the corner well enough. What's that chicane? The second chicane. Oh, the Segunda Variante.
That just means second chicane.
Yeah.
It does have a name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's after the... Oh, mate, my pronunciation of Italian words is not something that should be studied, if I'm honest. Curva Bisiano?
Oh, it's the Della Roggia chicane.
That's it. It has an actual name.
Now I
Yeah.
remember. Of course.
Yeah, I think Piastri cut him up in there a little bit. So there's a few, I say fans in quotation marks, of Lando Norris's that were unhappy about Piastri doing that. But
Can't please any racing fan when racing happens.
oh no, God forbid. I guess we'll move on to a bit of a season preview for this season.
Yeah.
We'll start it off where the season really started off at F1 75 Live. Kip, your thoughts?
What an evening. I watched that with a friend, and it was really fun, actually. You got a lot into 2 hours there, and I think if you paid for a ticket, you probably got your money's worth.
Yeah.
The live performances, as expected, were a bit cringe.
The first guys seemed alright. I don't know what their name was, but the first rock band guys seemed cool.
He was Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, was it?
There was, yeah.
Oh,
I thought it was Rocket Powered Mohawk when he walked on stage. I thought, oh my god, that's what he's been doing.
That's what he's been doing.
Never mind.
Nope, he is still absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, the first one was alright. I think the segments were really well paced. They basically just gave every team 7 minutes to do what they want.
Yeah.
Some teams utilised that well, others did not. I think Williams did well with their presentation.
It was just James Wells.
Yeah, but I think that's a bit of a shake-up.
Yeah.
None of the other team principals were out there rocking the mic.
That's fair.
Red Bull bottled their 7 minutes. I've no idea.
I'm not gonna lie. I watched the Sauber one and I just turned it off after that because I was like, they put in all that performance just to get P20.
Yeah.
Like there's no need to be that showy about it.
I liked it though.
It seemed a bit dramatic.
Drumming with the glow sticks.
I was just like,
And then the car was quite crap.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that one.
I don't know. I'm quite a fan of it.
Nah.
No.
It's lazy.
Yeah, true. But simple is sometimes good. Look at Braun.
True.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got to say I'm a fan of the state car. It looks. I like the green. The green does look quite nice, and then the slow gradient. I quite like it. It looks nice.
Yeah, but if you took sort of that back half, you've just got a plain black car.
That's true.
It really is just green over the front.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, you're not going to be seeing much of it, so I guess that's a positive.
That's true. You won't be seeing much of it. You won't
Um,
have to see it all that much.
What was after that? Oh yeah, Mr. Vowles and his Williams.
I really liked James Vowles' confidence on stage.
Yeah, he walked out and I was watching the clip back and I was just like, he seems like he's about to spit bars or something.
Yeah, it was great.
And then they revealed the car.
You've seen the car, now it's time to see the drivers. And yeah, we did.
Yeah. And Carlos looked very much like he definitely wanted to be there and looked really happy that he was driving a Williams this year.
We thought he aged a bit. He looks a bit like his dad.
Yeah.
Now. He's just aged a bit now that he's...
The stress of Ferrari.
Yeah, lived through the stress of Ferrari. Shout out to Sebastian Vettel's hairline that one year.
That was actually horrific. Yeah.
Landed in this Williams that is... I would say the same, but it's not the same.
No, it just looks... It's also a bit bland, I guess.
What they've done is they've taken last year's livery and airbrushed all of the solid lines to just make a dark blue to light blue gradient.
Yeah. They've still got the Duracell battery, which I quite like.
I like that as well.
It's a very nice feature. What was after that? Oh, Red Bull sugar free.
Oh, this was an interesting one. So when they started unveiling the car, they pulled back the cover. I saw the yellow in the front and I went, oh my god, this is totally new. And then they pulled it back further and then it went to the white Red Bull livery.
Yeah.
I really liked it at the time. Over the following days, I started to not like it.
Yeah.
Because they've gone for that Turkey 2021
They have pretty
white
much,
Red Bull
copied
style.
that.
And I think that actually devalues the specialism of that livery.
Yeah.
I just think it's a plain white Red Bull now.
It is pretty. Yeah. It's just Red Bull too.
I don't like the the Hugo stripe that was on it last year is continued on this car, but in a weird way because it blends with the rest of the body.
Yeah, it's not very visible.
And you end up with this big black sort of triangle under the side pod.
That looks a bit weird. I do like that they've got the bulls, like the sort of Mercedes, Petronas or whatever it was.
I like that. The little mini blue bulls.
Yeah,
that you have to be careful if you search that up.
Thank you, Kip. Moving on. Haas.
I loved it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I really like it. I like their the presentation of it as well. they realised Cadillac's on the way and they need to re-establish themselves as an actual American team.
Yeah.
So they went all out on the Americanism.
Surprised they didn't bring out a bald eagle.
The car busted through the wall like the Kool-Aid Man himself. And it looks great. It's super bold.
Yeah.
It's black and white. Bringing more white than there was previously is always welcome
Yeah.
compared to the cars that we've had lately.
I love they've just plastered a big American flag on the front of it as well.
There's always an American flag on the Haas.
Yeah, true.
Sometimes they're in different places, but I think
Yeah.
it's probably one of their best.
Yeah, I'd say it's up there.
There's little red pinstripes everywhere. If they were a little bit thicker, I'd say it's even better.
Yeah.
But overall, I really like it. It's just very bold.
It is quite bold, yeah. I feel like I might get it confused a little bit with the RB livery though, because it is quite white.
Yeah.
I think from the side that, other than the giant MoneyGram logo at the top of it, it might seem a little bit similar, especially when I don't have my glasses on. Just all blurry.
I am a fan though.
Yeah.
The tallest lineup on the grid.
That's true, yeah. It's Behrman and Ocon, who are both over 6 foot. Or the Alpine.
What do you think of it?
If the BWT logo wasn't pink, I think I'd like it.
I thought it was interesting at first, then gave it a couple days to stew on it, and I actually really, really like it. I think I mean, in the F175 pictures, it had this really beautiful glossy blue. It's a proper blue.
Yeah.
They've gone very strong on the bubblegum pink, but they haven't sort of ruined the livery. They've made it more cohesive in a way.
Yeah.
The front, when you look at the car from the front, it looks pink, and you look at it from the side, it looks blue, and I like that. It's kind of something that Renault did in 17 to 19, 20, is they had yellow over the front, so it looked yellow from the front, and then from the side it looked just black.
Yeah.
Which was quite cool.
Yeah.
I quite like the pink and blue almost clashing. I think it stands out a lot.
It does, yeah.
My only gripe was when they appeared at pre-season testing and they put the engine cover louvers on that left the panel in black, and it just created an awful void in the middle. So much separation.
I don't know. The thing is, I liked last year's Alpine car. I quite liked that it was mostly black with a little bit of blue and pink on it. I understand they did it for weight saving reasons, and a lot of people are like, why hasn't it got colour on it? But I think it looked quite nice.
I believe I was one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. I quite liked how, I guess, how not fluorescent it was, but this one is very in your face, pink and bluey.
I like it. A return to satin paint as well, or metallic, is always welcome in my books.
Moving on, we have the same car as last year, Aston Martin.
I liked it initially, and then I saw the whole car and went, that doesn't really work.
No. They had a bit of a thing going where it was that pink stripe because they were sponsored by BWD.
Yeah.
And then they removed it for the other Aston Martin green colour.
I don't know what it is. Is it lime? Is it yellow?
I don't know. It's like neon. And then the great big Aramco sponsor on the back just kind of looks a bit out of place.
Still looks a bit out of place. I don't like the I'm going to call it lime green, even though I'm colourblind. The stripe over the side of the nose cone dives under the side pod and just cuts off. And then above the side pod, you've got a perfectly straight line.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
It is a bit weird looking.
Because it just doesn't suit the car. I thought at the back where you've got it straight, it looks a bit retro to me. I just get a retro feel from it. And I liked that, but it doesn't carry on anywhere else on the car.
No, it's just all very flowy.
Yeah. And if you look at the car as a whole, every sponsor is the correct side up, except for the massive Aramco sponsor on the side pod that's tilted to the side.
Yeah.
It just looks a bit odd. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I usually am a fan of the Aston Martin liveries, but it's a bit similar to Red Bull, and they just do the exact same thing every year.
And this one just ain't it.
Nope. Moving on, Mercedes. I'm not usually a big fan of a Mercedes car, and I think this year it's still not really that great.
Yeah, I'll be honest. In the F175 lighting, I didn't notice much difference at all, other than the roll hoop is now silver instead of red. Then I saw the car in pre-season testing on track, and I thought that actually looks a bit better because they've got more silver.
Yeah, it's not quite as dark, but
It's still not my favourite kind of Mercedes livery by
no.
far. I don't like. There are elements about it that I still don't like. Why is it a silver to black gradient in some places and solid in others? It doesn't really click for me, but overall it's an alright livery.
Yeah, it's probably not up there with the best, but again, not that great. The Red Bull. Do we even need to say it? It's the exact same as last year.
It is the same as last year.
It's just, that's all that needs to be said. And the Ferrari.
Oh,
I've got a controversial opinion.
interesting.
I like the HP logo.
You like the HP logo?
I like it blue. I think it really stands out well, and they've done it justice by putting a white stripe next to it. And I actually quite
Fair.
like how it looks, especially on the team gear. I think it looks quite cool. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't like the HP logo. I didn't like it last year, but at least this year they've incorporated it better. I appreciate that they've used the stripes from what you would have seen more noticeably on the Le Mans cars. I like that they've used that on the F1 car, and I like that it's white as well, actually. It makes the HP logo fit in a bit better,
Yeah.
but also red and white is kind of a Ferrari thing to do. I think it would be a bit weird if it was any other colour.
I guess yellow maybe.
Yellow maybe, but I think it would be a bit too similar to the prototypes,
Yeah,
the
that's true.
hypercars.
Yeah.
I think they've done pretty good with what they have.
They usually have a good livery. Apart from that one, like, what was it, I forgot which race it was, but they had a special livery, like the deep red one.
Oh, the Tuscan Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's
their
it.
1000th.
Yeah, that was.
I thought it was all right. I just like the fact that it wasn't matte.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a nice car, and they've changed the red. It's not a big difference, obviously, but
No.
it looks nice altogether.
Yeah. And we'll move on to the last one. McLaren livery.
It's pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
There are some very slight tweaks to it. You wouldn't notice, really.
No. I just hate how they removed the blue from it. The blue made it so nice.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with two primary colours.
Yeah.
And when one of them is just bare carbon black, you don't get much of a livery out of
No.
it.
Yeah.
It's certainly not my favourite. It wasn't my favourite last year either.
No.
I think they could do better. I
Yeah.
think they could do more.
Well, they've got that little blue bit on the halo, so that when you're watching it from the TV cam, it looks quite nice. But then they zoom out and then show you the full car, and it's just like half of it's black,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like a weird stripe in the middle of it. And it's just. I also don't like how the chrome sponsor bit looks on it,
Yeah.
because it's just chrome, but then the O is replaced with the actual chrome logo. And I was like, it works on the tyres really nicely. And I think they actually have like the best wheel covers in F1, just because of how the chrome logo looks on it. But then just the title sponsor of chrome, and it's just like looks out of place.
Regarding chrome, we had a little debate when it came out because we thought the front wing, the leading edge, the main plane was decked in chrome. Turns out it wasn't. We also thought that the headrest was chrome. Turns out it's not.
No.
We were fighting about it for ages, and we were like, no, it looks shit. No, it looks great. No, it looks shit. No, it looks great. Is it chrome or not? It's the lighting. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because they'll end up doing a full chrome livery at some point, and I hope it's better than previous years.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they go full, all out.
They've got to go chrome and splash of red in it, surely.
I just hope they make it. They don't just do a few bits in chrome.
Yeah, it's got to be the full car.
It's got to be everything in black on that picture has to be bright, silvery.
I think they should just
reflective.
dunk the entire car in chrome, and then put on a few red splotches to reference like the 2012 car.
There's a good livery.
That's my favourite livery, I think, or one of. But yeah, I guess in review of the liveries, they're a bit mid this year.
Some are certainly better than others.
Yeah.
Because there's a fair few that haven't changed.
No.
There's a fair few that have changed quite a bit, and people either love it or hate it.
Yeah, they are very polarizing, I think. But I guess we'll move on to the next thing after F175, and that was pre-season testing. Very interesting results from that. I've got some times up here.
It was an interesting few days because we were actually able to follow it. There was full commentary and televised and broadcast and everything.
Yeah.
It was my first time watching pre-season testing like that. It was quite interesting. There were a few interesting stoppages as well.
Yeah, the bus on the track.
Painted glass.
Yeah. It's I don't know what the FIA are doing nowadays.
They're not doing they're not doing their jobs properly. They're monitoring swearing and not safety.
Yeah, it feels like they should probably focus more on the motor racing part, which is the bit they're good at.
Yeah.
And not the you can't swear or we'll give you an 80k fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bus on the track, I feel like it was a bit downplayed. Because that was a bus on the track.
It was a bus on the track.
Like, it's hard to deny that wasn't an issue. Because, yeah, it's testing. But, like, goddamn, somebody has died because of this before.
Yeah.
You said you weren't going to do it again. That's now, like, twice in the past 2 years that you've put a heavy machine or bus on the live track.
Yeah, someone lost their job that day. Someone allowed that thing to go on track somehow.
I don't know what they thought was going to happen, because they sort of just, like, what was the bus even doing? Like, did a school trip get really lost or something?
Tell them this isn't Super GT. We do not do buses on the track during a practice session.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they got a great view of the testing.
True. Was there even anyone on track at the time? Because I didn't watch it at that time.
I didn't watch it either at the time.
No.
But I'm gonna hope, for the FIA's sake, that there wasn't, because if there was somebody on the track, and all of a sudden there's a bus right next to them, that could have been quite an issue.
I'd be throwing hands, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and the power went out.
The power went out.
That happened as well.
That happened.
What a weird pre-season time.
I know. It feels like they weren't really there. I don't think it's just like, oh no, we've left the room for 5 minutes. The power was just turned off automatically.
Yeah.
I was just, and the window brake, like you said, how?
It was so bizarre. Only in pre-season testing do these things happen.
Yeah,
they don't happen on a race weekend.
God forbid that actually happens on a proper race weekend, because that could have some very
dire consequences.
Very much, yeah. I mean, when it first, because we were in lecture at the time.
Yeah.
So when I first saw it, I was looking over at Max's screen, and I was just like, Max is our friend, by the way. Sorry, probably should have clarified that. And I looked over at the screen, and I thought somebody had dented like the side of the track, and I was just like, how has somebody done that? And then it panned up and showed like the panelless the box,
the box of that, or missing a window.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's just, I mean, I guess Pirelli might have wanted to do some extreme tyre testing.
Yeah. That was, if anything, that was quite comedic.
That was very funny.
It wasn't on the racing line where everyone was going to die.
No.
It was just, there's something all over the track. Camera slowly pans up and there's a man leaning out the box.
It's just some guy like, damn. Who could have done that?
He just leaned against the window a bit too hard.
Yeah, I mean, as if you couldn't get a better view of an F1 car going around the track than a glass box right over the track. But yeah, it's all very dramatic. And Carlos Sainz came out with the quickest time again. I think he got it last year with Ferrari, so consistent.
Yeah. The Carlos Sainz going fastest for Williams has picked up some people's attention, and for some reason has built this narrative that Williams are not going to be shit this year. I mean, people are like, oh, they're going to break into the top 4 teams. Yeah, no.
I don't think the top 4 is achieved. I think top 5 might be.
Maybe. If they can top the midfield.
Yeah.
But then I've also heard pretty decent things out of Alpine.
True, yeah, but Alpine always say they've got a good car. and then
That's
inevitably get 17th.
It's not as bad as last year. We'll put it that way.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they can only go up theoretically. Yeah, I mean, Albon wasn't too far off him. He was only about 0.3.
Yeah.
And even still, that's, I mean, promising. You certainly can't say that that's conclusive evidence that they're going to finish last, because if we just scroll down to the bottom, that's where a certain Nico Hülkenberg
Yeah.
lays right next to Ollie Behrman, which makes sense because that's his debut season.
Haas I can defend because they literally just did long runs every day,
Yeah.
all day. They didn't bother taking any weight out the car,
Mm.
which is exactly what they did last year, and it panned out pretty well.
Well, yeah, they had a very good season last year. I think a bit of a shock, given they just axed Günther Steiner,
Yeah.
and then
They had an awful 2023.
yeah,
Their car was so quick, but it just ate up the rear tyres, and they went backwards in the race every time.
pretty much.
They could get into Q3, and they'd still finish 16, 17, 18, because the car just would not survive on tyres.
No.
That's what they focused their pre-season effort on last year, and it paid off.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping the same happens this year.
theoretically it should.
But yeah, Sauber is a lost cause. You can see that on the track and off it.
Yeah, they don't really care about this here, I think.
They're bringing in that gambling money,
Oh, yes.
and then they'll put it all into 26 with Audi.
Yes, where I will go and support them because I've made a conscious decision that I want to become a lower down fan.
Join us.
Yeah, join you and one of our other friends who's a Williams fan for some reason. Yeah, I've decided that I want to be an Audi fan, mostly because of the Quattro, if I'm honest.
Fair enough.
And I do love a cheeky Audi livery in other competitions, so that should be promising, given that they've already said that they're behind on the engine development, but I think everybody else has said that as well.
Everyone has said that pretty much. I think Merck is the only one who hasn't made a bad noise about it.
It's because Toto Wolff is incapable of saying that Mercedes engines are bad.
True. And Ferrari's been very quiet. I haven't heard anything from Ferrari about their 26 engine.
Yeah.
Whereas Honda says they're struggling, Red Bull says they're absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, Red Bull's making up excuses to cover up that they're nowhere.
Yeah, and then Audi say, well, Audi might run out of funding before they even get in.
Good lord. How does that even happen?
I don't know. It's because they're spending so much money on all their powertrain stuff.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're a new team coming in and making their own engines, which is fairly unheard of. Because
that's true.
Last time that somebody came in, it was Haas, and they pretty much worked on Ferrari components for the entire time.
Yeah. Cadillac as well.
They're coming in
That's
now.
next year as well.
Who are they? Were they also going to be Ferrari powered?
Yes.
Yeah.
For at least the first 2 seasons, because they want to work on an engine as well, but they won't do it straight away.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is fair enough. You want to get yourself established as a team, probably, before you work on something. And they have is it an indie team?
Cadillac, they're in hypercars.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they've been in hypercars for a while. I think they're all right. I don't generally tend to watch the sports car racing side of things, but they seem like they're an all right bunch. They've got goodwill, at least, from how many crashes they've had to overcome.
Yeah. Bit of a surprise name down the bottom. Lando Norris.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it a surprise, though?
No, because he aborted half his fastest lap
He did
attempts.
abort a lot of fast laps.
Yeah. And, I mean, I know McLaren were running on some long runs, and the time delta for most of those runs was within about half a second of the lap previous. And I think he was actually quicker at the end of his stint than at the beginning of his stint, which is concerning.
That's dangerous.
That is very dangerous. Although, to be fair, last year Red Bull predicted they had 0 tyre deg, so everybody lies.
Yeah. It's pre-season. Take everything with a handful of salt.
Yeah.
Whether it's on on track. You have to be at the track to see the cars and the drivers,
Yeah.
how they react in the corners. A popular place for people to stand is on the apex of turn 10, a downhill left-hander
Yes.
into what's pretty much a hairpin at that
I
point.
hate that corner on F1 so much.
It's an awful
I
corner.
always overcook it and end up in the off run.
But that's why it's so good to have a physical measure of a car's performance. If they're locking up in there every other lap, then you know there's a car that's a bit stiff, unbalanced. Is the car fighting it on the entry, on the exit? How much curb are they taking? You know, it's a good litmus test for how a car is performing in the hands of a driver.
I could tell you that the Aston Martin didn't look very comfortable in that corner.
No, the Aston Martin didn't look great
No.
at all, to be honest.
I'm surprised how, because Stroll was up there. Like, I mean, not too up there, but like in between Liam Lawson and Pierre Gasly on times at least.
Yeah.
The car didn't look great, but I think the times kind of maybe didn't reflect that as much.
I won't make any assumptions.
That's true.
Other than Aston Martin probably haven't gone forward much from last year or the end of last year.
I think they're just holding out for Adrian Newey.
Yeah, pretty much. He began.
I don't think he's begun yet.
He hasn't begun.
No, I think he's still in the little
gardening leave.
Yeah, although he's probably still just giving them a bit of information.
Cheeky text to Andy Cowell or whoever it is who works there.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see his impact, as he's probably dreading getting there, knowing that Lance Stroll's not giving up his seat for anybody, and they don't have a good engine for next year.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, hey, he'll produce a rocket ship anyway. It's just what he does. I guess we should then move on to. Oh, we've got Franco Colapinto noted down here.
Yeah, I've noted this one down because he was a bit of a surprise last year. Sort of came out of nowhere when Sargent was dropped. And he made an impression.
For the first race, yeah.
He made quite an impression very quickly that this kid is quick.
Yeah.
This kid's fast and he's talented. Someone's going to pick him up for next season, if not 26. And he was rumoured at places like Red Bull, Alpine.
Yeah.
Just all up and down the grid, really.
Pretty much.
But he never got a full-time drive.
No.
And not with Williams, because they'd already confirmed Sainz alongside Albon. Which obviously you don't really want to give that up yet.
No, not well. That is probably quite a strong lineup for next season.
Not the strongest livery though.
No, true.
But he was eventually picked up by Alpine as a reserve driver for this season. Alongside this, Doohan has been reported to be on a 6-race contract to prove his worth.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do it, Franco is waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's an interesting one, because I think
he's got a lot of unnecessary pressure.
Yeah.
To perform at Alpine.
They didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
They could have just done the old Red Bull trick, which is, oh, this guy isn't doing very well at the half-season mark. Let's just get him out of here.
Yeah.
And not tell anybody about it. Yeah, I mean, Colapinto, for the first few races that he was in the Williams, he looked really good.
Yeah.
I think he out-qualified Albon a couple times. And if not, was not too far off him, which same cannot be said for Logan Sargent, unfortunately. He cooked it into the barriers too many times. And then I think the pressure of conversations with Red Bull might have gotten to Colapinto a little bit, because then he started steaming it into the barrier a few times. Yeah.
I think he had a great little run because no one had expectation of him.
Yeah.
Which then instantly built expectation of him. Everyone forget he's a rookie with like 2 or 3 races under him.
Pretty much.
And said, Franco, he's a good kid. He's going to do fast.
He's the next Senna.
He's the next Senna. Even looks like him a little bit.
Yeah.
In the wall.
Cast them in the Netflix.
In the wall. And then questions.
Yeah.
And that's just unnecessary pressure, and people forget that he's just fresh out of F2.
Yeah. He did well for, I think, one of the rookies that came in at a certain point in the season. Obviously, Behrman was there for a little bit and cooked in the Ferrari, and then cooked in the Haas, which I'm sure you're very happy about going into the season.
I'm pretty happy about Behrman, yeah. Ayo Komatsu is a big fan of Behrman because he's been testing with the team since 2023.
Yeah.
His technical knowledge is great. His work ethic is second to none. He's really, really good. And I'm looking forward to him because he showed a lot of pace and consistency in both the Ferrari and the Haas.
Yeah.
I think now that he's going to have a full season to just do what he wants really in the Haas. I don't expect he'll be quicker than Ocon, but also if he is quicker than Ocon, I kind of don't unexpect it.
Yeah. Yeah, he seems initially that he's quite quick, and I think
he's a good kid with an expectation that if he does well, or if he puts the work in, he will perform well.
Yeah. Should we move on to our pre-season predictions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right. We'll start with the drivers.
Who's going for the chip?
Hang on, where's the phone? Right. So, for this season, I predict in P20 will be Nico Hülkenberg.
Oh.
Yeah, as good as a driver I think he is, it's purely the car.
It is the car.
I think it's going to be an absolute tractor. And yeah, I doubt it's going to get many good positions. We saw with Bottas getting 23rd in a 20 driver lineup last season, and I think he proved that experience isn't really everything, and
there's only so much you can do with that machine.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Put Hamilton in it. It probably won't find the points.
No. I think the only driver you could probably put in it that will get points is Verstappen, because he seems to be really good at dragging shit cars quite high.
True. Well, I'd like to see that, but we're not going to in our lifetime.
No. Well, I don't know. Yeah, because he's under talks. He said for now that he's staying till 26 with Red Bull. I don't know how true that's going to be, is the question. I know there's a lot of people saying that he might go to Aston.
Following Adrian Newey to Aston Martin, they've got all the facilities.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No, and they've got a lot of money.
They got a lot of money. And they will probably try and snipe him up if Alonso retires.
That's true, yeah.
If
in about 10 years maybe. Yeah. Go on then, who have you put for P20?
Judging by what we've seen, everything we've seen so far, it would have to be probably Hülkenberg or Bortoleto.
Yeah.
It will come down to a random race of attrition where maybe they might pick up a point or two, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be about wooden spoons. Yeah.
P19s and maybe your P17 if somebody DNFs.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Bortoleto, I've put him P19 because I think he might get one lucky race like Joe did last year, where he just somehow manages to get in the points for some reason, and then picks up a cheeky couple points and just about finishes above Hülkenberg. But I'm guessing yours would be the same answer as before.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, in 18th place, I've put Sir Lancelot Stroll. I think he's going to have an absolute stinker of a season because that Aston doesn't look good, as we've previously stated. And I'm not going to lie, if there's one man that I would not put in a bad car to get a good performance, it would be Lance Stroll. Because although he was all right at Williams, he seems to have lost absolutely everything since about he got that pole pretty much.
Yeah. I don't blame you for thinking that. Although I think you might be overlooking the person I've put next, which is Isaac Hadjar. Rookie for Racing Bulls.
Yeah.
Kind of just got pushed in there very late on.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know him. I don't see anything really in him.
Yeah.
I think he's basically just there to fill the seat because he was the next guy available.
And they didn't want Daniel Ricciardo back for the millionth time.
No. They ousted Perez lastminute.com,
Yeah.
shoehorned Lawson into Tsunoda's seat. Tsunoda's Red Bull seat.
Well, it should have been Tsunoda's seat, yeah.
And then said, Hadjar, you're up next. He's next on the chopping block. I don't think he'll do very well.
No, I mean...
He's kind of a weird case. He'll
Yeah.
either do kind of crap because he's just not got the experience, or, racing balls aren't fully behind him, or he'll do surprisingly well and he'll actually be quicker than Tsunoda and really throw an extra question into the equation regarding Red Bull and Racing Bull lineups.
I feel like that seat probably should have been Colapinto's, because Red Bull were in talks with getting Colapinto, but they hadn't yet said that they were going to boot out Perez.
Yeah.
So I think they wasted a bit of an opportunity there in getting a competent driver for a lower down team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a fair point. I've gone after Stroll in 17th place, Doohan. I think he might struggle, but I don't think he'll struggle enough to get kicked out.
Yeah.
He seems all right. Obviously, time will tell. But I think just from a pre-season standpoint, he didn't seem too bad. Obviously, that Alpine could either be all right or terrible, same as last year. And I think maybe it'll come down to a couple races that he may get enough points to float above a little bit. Someone like Stroll or Bortoletto. So, yeah.
I noticed you started your predictions from P20.
Yes.
Which means Colapinto would not be on the grid.
No.
You think Doohan will do enough to keep his seat?
I think so. I think he'll have a good first couple races and then maybe just get a bit mid and sort of sit around 15th, 16th and just not get lucky. But I think for the first couple races he'll be really promising, and they'll be like, okay, he's good enough to stay here for the season.
True.
And give him the rest of the season, and then he'll just be like, oh, cool, I don't have to perform anymore, and just sort of drop off a little bit and not be as pressured, I think, to race or you're going to get kicked out.
I've got Stroll next.
Yeah.
The Aston just doesn't look anything good this year. If they do turn up in performance, it will be too little and too late.
Yeah.
And I think Stroll is not the kind of person who will take any upgrades and bam, straight out.
No, it's not really
up
his job.
into the top 10 for him.
Yeah.
I think if anyone would do that, it would be Alonso.
Yeah.
Depends who gets the upgrades first, I suppose.
I mean, when you've got a two-time world champion and your son, it is quite a hard decision.
It's a hard choice.
I feel like people with common sense would give it to the two-time world champion that's actually got your team a podium recently. Yeah. And not your kid that's kind of there.
He's just there.
He's not doing much. Well, I guess I'll move on to P16 where I've put Isaac Hadjar. I think, yeah, he's probably not going to do great, but I feel like he'll get lucky at some point and just get a couple points. I don't think he'll be helping RB in there. Is it RB anymore? Oh, I've forgotten what it's called.
They call themselves Racing Bulls now.
So it's RB still, yeah.
Yeah.
Too many names, man. Yeah, I feel like he'll just get a couple scrappy points just to keep ahead of Doohan and Stroll. The RB just looks in testing so far. It's not really been anywhere, and I haven't seen too many people say it looks a bit mid. So yeah, I don't know where it'll be, because I mean last year it wasn't great, but it also wasn't terrible.
Yeah,
it was like the midfield car.
Yeah, just
wasn't able to challenge for much, but
it was a very solid middle of the road car.
Yeah, just the definition of mid. So who've you gone next?
Where are we? 16th.
Yeah.
Doohan.
Yeah.
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 I think he would be that 16th place driver regardless of whether or not he kept his seat. I think he'll be all right in the first few, tail off a bit, and then, yeah, it depends where the Alpine is, really.
That's true.
If the Alpine is, the tail end of the points, that 5th best car outside the big four, then I think he stands a reasonable chance at getting some good points. But if it's just outside of it, I don't think he's getting into the top 10.
No, he hasn't quite got the experience.
He's certainly not beating Gasly.
Yeah.
Who is so in tune with that team and that car now.
He's locked in.
Bro is locked in.
Well, I'll move on to P15, and you might not like this because I've gone Esteban Ocon.
That's fair enough, actually.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to settle into the team very well. And I reckon he's just probably going to spend most of his season punting Gasly or Behrman out. Just out of spite for Gasly and just because Behrman's his teammate. I feel like he'll... Yeah, I don't feel like he's going to perform well. And he'll just end up... He'll get a couple good points. Maybe get like a couple P8s or something. But he'll mostly spend it like on the outskirts of the points, punting people into a barrier.
Yeah. I've got Tsunoda next.
Yeah.
I think the Racing Bulls, they're just not moving forward.
No.
They are very, very mid.
They're a team with nothing really planned, I feel.
Yeah, they've not got a lot going for them. They are just...
Red Bull too.
Part of the Red Bull economy,
yeah.
Really, for drivers. And it's not even like Racing Bulls has an upgrade from Red Bull and makes the car good. That just doesn't really seem to happen with their car. It's an odd case. They don't really get a lot of help from Red Bull.
No,
it seems, based off results.
They just kind of peter in the lower points position.
Yeah, I don't really like Racing Bulls. I don't understand the direction of their team. They want to make themselves an independent outfit, but then they literally copy the Red Bull livery and move into Red Bull's back garden in Milton Keynes.
They're just like an F2 team in F1.
Yeah, it's so weird.
They took all the history away from them by moving away from Italy.
Yeah. I really think they should have just sold the team to Andretti or something.
Yeah,
But Red Bull is not going to let that happen, and especially not now with all the plans.
No.
But it just feels like Racing Bulls does whatever Red Bull says.
Pretty much.
And it doesn't seem to work out any differently.
I guess they're like what Williams is to Mercedes, but like at least Williams has free will.
Yeah, they have free will and heritage now.
Yeah, that's true.
And Racing Bulls just sort of scrub that all away.
Yep. I guess we'll move to P14, where I've got Fernando Alonso. I don't see the Aston Martin doing well this season, and despite all of his absolute aura and good performances that we've seen over the years, I feel like it's going to be an absolutely impossible job to drag that Aston Martin anywhere relevant.
I too have Fernando Alonso in 14th.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he could do much better with that car.
No.
I think he'll get points in a few races. It will be kind of driver races.
Yeah.
Monaco.
Yeah.
I see him doing good at Monaco, or
a wet race.
A wet race for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think Aston Martin, unless they can turn around things, which doesn't really seem to happen at Aston Martin.
I think they'll just focus on 26. I don't see them like looking at 2025 and being like, this is our season to do something. I think they'll see that the 26 regulations are coming. There's a chance for them to get in the top lot, and they've got Adrian Newey all of a sudden, so why not just focus literally everything on 26?
It's got a good point, to be fair. I don't think they'll go forward in 2025.
No.
Which is not good, because they haven't even started in a great place.
No.
They touted as the 8th or 9th fastest at this point.
Yeah. They were really good 2 years ago, and they seem to come out of absolute nowhere and just be like, damn, we can fight for podiums now. And ever since, they just haven't.
It's their upgrades structure hasn't worked out.
No.
So they've put upgrades on the car, not fully understanding what the changes will what the outcome will be of those upgrades.
Yeah.
We saw it in Hungary 2023. The car just dropped off.
Mm.
They've only gone backwards. They don't seem to have a cohesive upgrade structure that makes the car better.
Yeah.
It makes the car slower and less stable. It was a bit of a wreck at the end of 2023.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And it didn't improve last year. In fact, it went backwards.
Yeah, I don't know how you can update a car and it goes backwards.
I know.
That seems really silly that you can just do that.
That's something that Adrian Newey will hopefully fix.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd like to think. It'd be really funny if it doesn't happen.
It'd be crazy if it doesn't happen.
If you've got Adrian Newey and your updates just aren't working, then
how much is he being paid?
Too much.
It's a lot. I'll get the official
it's
figure.
Quite a lot. Yeah. I mean, Aston Martin are a team with all the money and no idea of what to do with it.
30 million a year.
Oh my god.
That's more than pretty much all the drivers.
That's crazy. 30 million. I know people talk about how much footballers get paid, but that is actually wild that one guy is getting paid 30 million.
He better make that car into an actual spaceship.
Honestly.
They better just appear on the grid with a fucking TIE fighter in 2026.
Yeah, that is unreal how much he's getting paid. It probably costs less than that to do some of the upgrades.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's wow.
The cost cap is 130-ish million.
Yeah. Damn.
Of course, that doesn't apply to your top three people, and I think he's included in that.
Oh, I'd be surprised if he wasn't. I'd want to know who else is getting paid that much. Yeah, wow, that is crazy. 30 million a year. How much is that a second?
That's a lot.
That's a lot of seconds.
It's about $8 a second or something. I don't know.
That's wow. Fair play to him. I know he had the choice of Aston Martin or Ferrari, and I think he's chosen the bagger on this one. Jesus, that is a lot of money though.
13th?
13th. I've put Pierre Gasly.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it'll be another mid-season for Alpine. It won't be as mid as last year because that'll take some beating. But I feel like he'll just kind of be there, and maybe he'll get in the top 10 every now and again. But the car will be inconsistent in results-wise, at least.
Yeah. I've got Esteban Ocon.
Ooh.
I think the Haas will be as good as last year, maybe not quite as good. I think Alpine would have taken a step forward. Williams looks like it's taken a step forward. So I've put Ocon there. I think he'll be better than Behrman initially, but I think as Behrman progresses, he will be sort of the number one by the end of the year.
That's fair.
I think Ocon's sort of seen as best now.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to say that because it's like, what has he actually done? Because he won Hungary 2021 in that race where Fernando decided to become the widest car on track for a good few laps. And yeah, I feel like Ocon's been one of those drivers that has just been there.
Yeah.
And hasn't really done much.
He's been in F1 since 2016. It's almost 10 years.
That's crazy.
So, and he's, other than Hungary 2021, I don't think anything.
There's no like real standout performances.
No, nothing noteworthy.
No.
He's always been a second driver.
Pretty much.
As well. At Force India, he was second to Perez.
Yeah.
At Renault, he was second to Ricciardo, and later Alonso, and then Gasly. And he's only going down the grid now.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I don't know with Ocon. He seems like one of the drivers who came in with like massive talent and seemed to be like a really good French driver, and then he's just kind of been at Alpine.
Yeah.
He's not really done much.
I feel like Haas will be his last.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just don't think
he's not.
I don't think he's going to go forward from here. There's too many younger, faster guys coming through.
Yeah, he might go. He'll probably go to Formula E or something.
Hmm.
That's where every mid F1 driver ends up.
True.
What are we now? P12.
Yeah.
I've gone Alexander Albon.
Oh, same.
Oh, well, you're meant to disagree with me, mate. We're meant to have contrasting opinions.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like that Williams has got something in it, and it is a Mercedes engine as well as a good car.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with that.
No,
I think it's gonna be more consistent than last year.
yeah,
It's gonna be basing on pre-season testing. It's gonna have a bit more pace.
Yeah.
Looking at a regular top 10 contender.
I think so. I think I'll be surprised if it was bottom quarter of the grid. And I feel like, although last year Albon didn't have any competition from his teammate, I think now that Sainz is there, he's going to kind of realise that he isn't really the number one anymore. Because obviously throughout his career he's had several GOATs, including Nicholas Latifi for a little bit. Did he have Latifi? Yeah.
It's him and Latifi from 22.
Yeah, and then last year and the year before that he had Sargent. So obviously incredible amounts of pressure coming from them two.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he started to crack a little bit with Colapinto as his teammate. So I think
last season I felt like he wasn't at his best.
No.
I feel like 22 and 23 were better seasons for dragging a pretty crap car into pretty decent places.
Yeah.
But last year he sort of tailed off. That could just be a car thing. It could have just been a really inconsistent car.
Yeah, that's true. It seemed quick in the straight line, but then as soon as it comes to a corner, it just seems to not.
Yeah. Williams say they've fixed all these inconsistencies for this year, and that gives me hope that it will be a bit better.
I mean, it looks promising from testing. I mean, Sainz P1 and Albon like P6. It's not bad.
It's not bad, and it is a good overall driver lineup. I don't think Albon will fall off because Sainz is his teammate. I think it will just be a general 1-2 sort of order.
Yeah. I guess we'll move on to P11 where I've put Yuki Tsunoda.
That's quite high.
Yeah, I feel like the car won't be there, but I think he's got enough experience to maybe pull it a bit higher than where it should be, get a couple good performances, and probably get lucky at some wet race or something and pull a bit of an Alpine from last year and finish abnormally high.
Yeah. We need more of those races.
We do. Just we should try the old suggestion of putting sprinklers on track.
Yeah.
just letting it rain every now and again.
Just for a couple.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't know. No one would know.
No one would know until somebody spins off and recklessly puts it in a barrier or something. Yeah. Who have you gone for then?
Where are we? 11th.
Yep.
Behrman.
Yeah.
Oh no, are we 13th?
No, we just did 12.
We just did 12. Oh, I've got Alonso actually.
Oh, yeah.
Did I say Alonso earlier?
I can't remember. I think you might.
I said yeah. I'm looking at my list and it's all jumbled up because they've thrown Colapinto in there, and it's messed up the order. Behrman.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
The Bear. I
Yeah.
think he'll be pretty good in the Haas.
Yeah.
I think he'll establish a number one status at some point.
I think so. I think he'll have the upper hand on Ocon.
He wouldn't be in the Ferrari Driver Academy for nothing.
Well, no, and he wouldn't get in the Ferrari when Carlos Sainz is. And yeah, I think
he's the best of all the rookies this year, by quite a bit.
Yeah, because
I think he's better than Lawson.
I think
hot
so.
take, but I think he's better than Lawson.
Lawson hasn't shown a lot.
That's what I think.
I think he's kind of just been there.
Horner literally said in an interview after Lawson was signed for Red Bull that Lawson has a higher potential than Tsunoda, and that's why they picked him. But the way I read that is we're picking him over ifs and buts.
I was going to say,
everything is hypothetical here.
You've got a second team for a reason, and that's to let the people unlock their potential and then put them in.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess we'll speak more about Lawson when we get to him at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Birmingham 11 solid. I've put him 10th, so not too far away. I think he'll have a promising season. He showed that he was competent at driving a Formula One car around quite a tough circuit to come into, like completely unaware
Yeah.
in Saudi. And
That was physical.
you could see his neck going at the just rolling around. Yeah,
He's got quite a long neck.
he's quite tall, so doesn't help. But yeah, no, I think he'll have a few stand-up performances this season. It's just how far the hassle let him go is the question.
And you put him 10th. Where did you put Ocon? Like 15th?
15th.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot better.
I think it'll be a relatively close season, like all over. Than just because everybody's saying, oh yeah, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, all going to be fairly close at the front. I think the midfield's also going to be quite hotly contested place.
Yeah. As much as last year, if not more.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because last year there was this brilliant battle forming between Williams, Haas, Alpine. I think RB was in it as well.
For a little bit, yeah.
They dropped off. Alpine got lucky. Williams dropped off because of crashes.
Doesn't help.
My 10th is Gasly.
Gasly, yeah.
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 I think he's really in tune with the team. He's really in tune with the car. I don't see how you can go wrong.
No, yeah. I mean, he's established.
Yeah.
He's been there for a season. Two? Is it two? I always forget how long he's been there. Yeah, I could see that.
I think even if the Alpine isn't great, even if it's like 6th or 7th fastest, I think he'll find a way to get into the top 10 just about on enough occasions to keep the car going.
Yeah.
Keep the team going up.
That's fair enough. I've realised we're getting close to the end of the booking of the room, so I'm just going to quickly do that. What is it now? Hour and 16. We have to log in again.
There'll be a lot of beautiful jump cuts in this.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's been a few moments of awkward silence. Yeah. Luckily it's audio, so it doesn't really matter. What are we? Room 2? Yeah.
This is 2.
We have been absolutely yapping away.
Yapping away.
Yeah. There we go. Alright, I booked it for a bit longer. There we go. Where are we at?
10th. Well, we
Ninth.
did 10th. 9th.
Alright. So, in 9th, I've put Kimi Antonelli.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just... From his brief stint in Monza, and brief is putting it lightly, he looked like he's one to test the limits, and I think he'll get a good couple performances. But also he'll get a couple moments where he careens it into the barrier and sort of just ends up there.
Yeah. I noticed you put him 9th, which suggests one of the midfield cars will be ahead of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, my 9th place is probably the person you put ahead of him, Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he'll be best of the rest.
Yeah.
He has nothing else to prove, really. He's an accomplished driver. He's a winning driver. And if the Williams is as good as it says, he's best of the rest. Easily.
That's fair. Well, I haven't actually put him in 8th.
Ooh.
I've put Liam Lawson in 8th.
Ooh.
Because I think he'll be like Perez of last year, but with more promise. And a little bit more confidence. I reckon the Red Bull's probably the worst car out of the top 4. I think
that is a possibility.
I think although it looks all right, I feel like Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren are first by a margin. I think Mercedes and Ferrari are going to bring in enough updates to outdo the Red Bull's raw pace, and I feel like Lawson just isn't quite going to be there yet because he hasn't had like a proper full-time drive. He's still technically a rookie, although he's done like 12 odd races.
He has officially 11 Grand Prix under his belt.
No,
That's it.
that's it. Yeah, that's not really. I don't think there's enough time in F1 to warrant Red Bull seat, but also to be a competent enough driver. And so I feel like he's probably going to have a few performances where he's just absolutely nowhere at the tail end of the point, scrapping with someone like Behrman or, Gasly in that situation.
I also have Lawson in 8th. We're both very safe on these.
Nothing. Well, I think mine get a bit more outlandish as we go on, but
I don't think Lawson is. I'm not saying he's nothing special, but he's definitely not going to be
world championship
fighting
material.
against Max Verstappen.
Yeah,
He's going to be comfortably second fastest. He's probably going to have a good few moments.
yeah,
Spun it in pre-season, for example.
yeah.
I think he's not going to be as in tune with the car.
Mm.
Although apparently his driving style is closer to Max's than previous teammates.
Okay.
So if the car is upgraded and it moves forward in Max's driving style, maybe Lawson will be carrying forward as well. But if the Red Bull is even capable of podiums, I don't see Lawson getting one.
No, he just doesn't quite have it in him yet to
No.
fully do that. Well, I guess we'll move on to P7, where I have got Carlos Sainz.
Hey!
I reckon he'll have an absolute blinder in the Williams. I think he's probably. I think he'll average around P7, P8, and he'll probably get one or two standout performances where he just somehow sneaks into the podium
Yeah.
and picks up an odd third place. I think I might be hopping on the Williams hype a little bit in saying that that car looks good, and I feel like despite it'll be his first time with a Mercedes power unit, which is actually crazy considering how many times he's been at a different team.
Yeah.
Because he just missed out on it at McLaren, I think. I feel like he'll have a good few races, and that will just catapult him up a bit.
Are we 7th?
Yes.
Antonelli.
Yeah, that's respectable.
I think he is very quick. Too quick for his own good, and he's going to slip up. It's his rookie season, and he's got a lot of expectation on him.
Yeah.
Because he's replacing Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion. He's not replacing Lewis Hamilton,
No.
but everyone is talking him up as the next Max Verstappen,
Yeah.
who did replace Lewis Hamilton as a fucking dominant world champion.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, but I don't think he's got it in him to be consistently good.
Yeah. He just doesn't seem like
He doesn't have tyre saving abilities yet. Or, longevity, long runs.
Yeah.
He's very quick over one lap. We saw that in Monza.
Yeah, he'll pick up a few poles, I think.
I think Russell, against Russell, he won't be near him.
No. Yeah, that's fair to say. In P6, I've gone with Hamilton. I think
Interesting.
it's going to be a bit of a settling in season. I feel like he's been with a Mercedes power unit at least for all of his career, I think. Because with McLaren, it was McLaren, Mercedes, and then he left to actually go to Mercedes. And so I feel like there's going to be a bit of adjustment. He said himself that there is a little bit. And I think for this season at least, he'll be there, but I don't see him being as quick as Leclerc in the Ferrari.
Yeah, that's fair. I've got Russell in 6th.
Ooh.
I don't think the Mercedes is quite as quick as everyone's saying. I think it will be most weekends it will be fighting against the Red Bull for third
Yeah.
out of the teams. I think Russell is probably the best driver out of those two teams that isn't Verstappen. Obviously he's gonna beat Lawson and Antonelli, but I think that's about all you can do.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
he's just gonna have basically like he did last season. He's just gonna sort of shift the team to him and hope that sticks.
Yeah.
I think he's ironed out a lot of his flaws. You know, his 2023 season where he like binned it in the Singapore Grand Prix,
Yeah.
crashed here and there. It was just messy. But last year he cleaned up a lot,
Yeah.
and this year I think he's gonna be a bit of a monster in that Mercedes. Actually,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think-
he's given free reign pretty much.
he might drag it to places it shouldn't be, but overall I don't think the Mercedes is gonna be as up and down
Yeah.
as it was.
To be a bit more consistent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the cold races I'd still look out for him.
Mm.
Vegas and whichever other one.
Good question.
Was it Qatar?
Yes.
What was that cold?
No, that was really hot.
That was really hot.
Was it Canada that was the cold one?
It was Vegas and something else that was cold, and that Mercedes just lit up.
Which one? I don't know. It was the UK. What? Oh, George won Canada last season. Oh no, it's pole sit. What? I want winners. Oh. Austria. Oh, he won that one because Max and Lando careened into each other. I can't really remember, if I'm honest.
I would just say I'd look out for cold races like Vegas again,
Yeah.
because the Mercedes seems to be more comfortable in the colder conditions. And I think with Russell and how well-rounded and polished he is now as a driver, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with
Yeah, I can see that.
if that Mercedes is at the top, which I don't really see it being this year.
I think it'll be like third fastest out of the top lot.
Yeah.
That's actually why I've put Russell in fifth.
Hey.
I think he'll be fairly consistent. He'll get a couple good performances. Hopefully they give enough fuel so that he can get counted next season. And yeah, I can see him. I can see him having a good couple races, getting up there a bit, and being, yeah, like you said, overall quite consistent.
Yeah. Fifth, I've got Verstappen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the Red Bull will be a bit neutered
Mm.
for this year. I don't think it's going to be as raw and quick as he'd like it to be. And I think as a result, compared to like the McLaren, that I think will just be consistently good everywhere.
Yeah.
I think the Red Bull is going to be peaky again. He might snag a win out of it, might not.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an unknown. I don't doubt his ability, but I just don't think the Red Bull is going to be as good this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think McLaren are going to take a big step forward, and it's going to be pretty difficult to overcome them.
Yeah. In P4 I've gone Leclerc.
Interesting.
I think he's not going to be better than the McLaren lot, and I feel like, yeah, it's a tough one with Ferrari because I think they're either going to be really good and fighting for race wins every weekend, or they'll just kind of be above Mercedes but below Max and McLaren, and just sort of peter around there, maybe picking up podiums every other race weekend. And I just can't really see him challenging for a title.
I've got Hamilton in fourth. I
Okay.
think, as you mentioned earlier, he's not going to be super quick straight off the bat.
No.
I don't think he'll beat Leclerc over the season, but I still think he's just a really good driver, and he'll just keep it consistent, keep it on the road, deliver good points, podiums. Yeah, permitting the Ferrari is, as I put it, second fastest car.
Yeah, that's
So
fair
comfortably second fastest. Maybe track dependent.
enough.
Could be the quickest like it was last year.
Yeah.
But I think Hamilton will be overall. It'll be a nice, consistent settling in season. I don't think he'll go trying to dominate races.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be super quick and like mistakey like a rookie driver.
He doesn't really do mistakes.
He doesn't really do mistakes. So I think he'll be calm and measured,
Yeah,
keep it on the black stuff, and just bring home great points every
Yeah.
week.
that's fair. Well, this is probably the most controversial one for me.
Well, we're in the top 3 now.
Yeah.
Go on.
Third place, Lando Norris.
Interesting.
I think he's had a bit of a shake-up from last season. He said himself that he wasn't mentally ready to fight a championship, and then it showed on track.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
Zach Brown or Andrea Stella, whoever, came out saying that the team wasn't ready to fight a championship. And I still don't think it is.
Ooh.
I still don't think they're ready to challenge drivers. I think they'll have the constructors an absolute lock. I feel like they'll have won the constructors by about halfway through the season. Not actually, but like you'll see,
Yeah.
it's just like they're there. And I feel like this season there's going to be no favoritism between him and Piastri.
Ooh.
And I feel like they'll just let them go at it. And
That is a bit of a hot take.
and I feel like I know who's going to come out on top of that.
Wow.
Who have you put into third?
Third, I've actually gone for Piastri.
Ooh.
You see, I don't think McLaren knows how to deal with 2 competent drivers. And I think they will only favour Lando Norris because he might have a better start to the season. We'll end up with like a Hungary situation again, but this time it's actually for the championship.
Yeah.
And I think they will, as long as Piastri and Norris are teammates, they're only going to favour Norris to try and keep everything level. And I don't think Piastri can overcome that. I think Piastri could potentially be a better driver than Norris. But I think as long as he's in that McLaren, he's not going to win a championship.
Okay.
That's my stance on it.
Well, we'll move on to second, and that's where I've put Piastri. I honestly think he is the better driver out of him and Lando. Although last season Lando did put up a very good performance, I just feel like this season Piastri's just going to hit that consistency that he couldn't find, especially towards the tail end of last season. You saw signs that he could be a quick driver, and throughout the season he was quite quick. He just wasn't very consistent, especially in qualifying. I think quite a lot last season, he just couldn't quite get to the positions that Lando was.
Yeah.
But I feel like with another season, and now that he knows he's going into this season with a really good car, I feel like that'll all combine and he'll have a good start, and McLaren won't, as you said, just favour Norris because mathematically he's better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Who have you put second?
I've got Leclerc second.
Ooh.
I think he is... I don't think Leclerc gets better. I think he hit a peak very early on, but he is constantly on that peak.
Yeah.
Since like 2022-ish. Iron out the mistakes. The car is under him. He's just so quick.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive Leclerc fan, by the way. I just think he's really stepped it up.
Yeah.
And he's kept it there. And he's very quietly a very good title contender. Ferrari kind of came out of nowhere at the end of last season to challenge McLaren.
Yeah, that was a bit.
And it was Leclerc who led that.
Yeah.
Albeit Sainz wasn't that far behind. I think that was Sainz is easily his best season so far. Which just tells me that they're both really, really strong drivers.
Yeah.
And I think Leclerc has enough to keep the Ferrari at the top end of the field, challenge for wins, but if it's not wins, it's just podiums every time, basically. I think it'll be really, really close between the top three.
Yeah.
I think it will be down to points, just a few points at the top between Leclerc and the guy I've got first.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll go first if I've got first. I've put Max. I think he'll just drag it there. He's done it before. He'll do it again, and this will probably be one of his last. I don't see the Red Bull being particularly fast. I just see him being good at dragging a potentially quite bad car somewhere where it shouldn't be, and just hitting those consistent podiums that he did last season, and just kind of keeping the pressure on without actually fighting on track. Although I think he probably will do that a lot more this season, and we might get a few more Mexico Grand Prix incidents where he's just kind of punting somebody off because he can. So yeah, I think that's what will happen. But obviously,
I've gone quite safe, to be honest. I've gone for a Norris World Championship.
Yeah.
It's not the driver I'd like to win the championship, but honestly, I think McLaren is the force to be reckoned with this season.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, I think McLaren will just back him. You know, as soon as he gets a little 30-point lead or whatever over his teammate, or whatever happens, I think the team will just be focusing on him to try and deliver this championship before the shake-up in 26.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Wow.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I couldn't say that I'm particularly a big Lando fan. Although he seems to have done a complete 180 from last season. He seems to just like Max now again, and it's like nothing happened between the two of them.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. I mean, we don't get the full context of everything that happens behind the scenes, and Drive to Survive, if anything, warps it
I just
further
don't even
from
watch
reality. I haven't watched it. I didn't watch last year either.
No,
I think I watched the one for the 22 season.
Haven't watched any.
Got to the cost cap bit and was just like, oh, this is just getting old now.
Yeah, it's the same thing year in and year out. Yeah. Well, that is our slightly controversial drivers' standings opinions. It is Roe Seek, as they say on Reddit.
Absolutely.
And first weekend Australia. Are you excited about getting up at 4 a.m. on a Sunday?
Oh yeah, that might be something. Yeah, I won't be getting up on Sunday. I'll already be awake because I come home from work at 2.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a long couple of days.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least you'll be conscious by the time it comes on.
True.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I might just literally get home and then just watch F2.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Then that hooks nicely.
Yeah.
Into the day.
Well,
God, that's gonna be a long Sunday.
That's gonna be a very long Sunday.
Wow.
You need a few Red Bulls. Or Dr. Peppers, as you prefer.
I'll have a few Dr. Peppers to keep me awake.
Yeah. Well, the Aussie preview. I mean, first race of the 2025 season. It's claimed to be quite a close one. I know everybody's sort of been keeping their cards to the chests. And obviously we talked about the pre-season testing. Kipper, what are your thoughts on what may happen?
I think it will be a pretty obvious fight at the front between McLaren and Ferrari, although I do see Verstappen being part of that mix as well. Albeit I don't think he'll have the car underneath him to win. I think it will be close between Norris and Leclerc, really, in terms of the poles, and then trying to keep that going throughout the race. Although it is touted to be a wet race or a wet weekend, which is going to shake up things a lot, because generally I find Australia isn't the most entertaining race to watch.
No, well, to be fair, it doesn't help that it's usually held at like ridiculous o'clock in the morning, so I'm already half asleep watching it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch. If it gets wet,
that could be fun.
That could be very fun.
That could, well, thinking back to Brazil of last year, that could be quite a good race.
Definitely throws more names into the mix.
Yeah. Well, speaking of names, we have decided for a fun little challenge that we're going to try and decide each other's top threes for qualifying and the race. we'll try and be interesting about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not play it safe all the time, I guess. But do you want to try
Right.
and guess?
For your qualifying top 3,
Yeah.
I'll do it in reverse order.
Okay.
So I think third, I bet you've got Piastri.
Okay.
And then up on the front row, you have, I'm going to say Verstappen second and Leclerc first.
Okay, 1 out of 3.
Oh,
You got Oscar Piastri in third,
nice.
and I've put Charles Leclerc in second, and Mr. Lando no champions in P1.
Damn.
Yeah. I think, yeah, he'll probably have a good quali. He always does.
True.
Now, I feel like you might have gone a bit bold in quali. I feel like you've gone Kimi Antonelli in third, Charles Leclerc in second, and Lando Norris in first.
Oh, no.
No,
Close-ish, but...
no.
Right, I've got Verstappen in third.
Ooh,
I think if it's wet, it will definitely get it up there.
that's true.
I've got Norris second and Leclerc first.
Oh, that's close. Damn.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Wow.
I think Leclerc just has that edge in qualifying.
Yeah, he does often find his way up
I
there.
think the Ferrari's pretty decent Australia as well,
That's true. Yeah.
given last year as well.
Right. On to the race.
On to the race. For your top 3, I think you've got, I'm going to say Verstappen third,
Mm-hmm.
and then Norris, Piastri 1, 2.
In that order?
Yeah.
You've got 1 out of 3.
Oh, again.
Yeah, you got Verstappen in third, and I put Charles Leclerc in second, and Oscar Piastri to win his home Grand Prix.
Wow, wouldn't that be something?
That would be quite funny. For you, I think you've put Charles Leclerc third, Max Verstappen second, and Lando Norris first. No.
I actually have, given it might be wet, Russell P3,
Ooh.
Norris second,
Yeah.
and Verstappen first.
Wow.
Yeah,
Damn. Fair enough.
I think it could work out like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the wet does usually throw a bit of a curveball.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think
fair
Ferrari will have a big strategy / pit stop fuck up like Canada
enough.
last
As
year.
they do.
Yeah.
As it's normal to them. Yeah. Russell third. Do you think he can drag the Mercedes up that high?
I think so, maybe.
Yeah.
If it's wet, it'll be cooler.
I guess. Yeah.
I think
that-
Russell's a pretty good driver in the wet.
Yeah, he did get that. Well,
That
should have
P-
been Poland.
Belgium.
Belgium. Yeah.
That was great.
That was very.
He was on
very
the
good
front row in
performance.
Russia.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lando bottled it in the wet.
Rip.
Yeah. Well,
Not bad.
not bad. I mean, you got what 2 out of 6,
Yeah.
and I got 0 out of 6.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh well,
Damn.
only a matter of numbers.
True that.
Did you want to move on to your many other series?
Yes. So this isn't just a motor race about F1.
Mm.
This is a good opportunity to talk about any different motorsports. I myself follow quite a few. I'm a big NASCAR fan, but I also started watching other things this year. I've returned to F2, started watching IndyCar, the Xfinity series in NASCAR, which is sort of the NASCAR equivalent of F2. And I will be watching DTM when that starts up in April, because I can watch that through Premier Sports. And also Formula E, interestingly, which this season started last year in December with the Sao Paulo E Prix. I don't remember an awful lot of it because it was so long ago. However, it was the debut of the Gen 3 it was the debut of the Gen 3 Evo, which has aero and visual tweaks for a more aggressive style and harder racing and faster lap times than ever. Accompanying these changes were a softer compound of Hankook Ion all-weather tyres, and for the first time ever, the use of all-wheel drive was available in attack mode during races, qualifying duels, and on the launch at the start of the races.
I will say the cars do look very aggressive, as you said. They just look.
They look so much better than the standard Gen 3.
Yeah,
They've got they're very triangular.
Yeah,
They're a bit weird.
bit weird, bit angular, but
Too angular for me.
yeah, I don't mind the way they look. They look like futuristic F1 cars, which I guess is the whole vibe of Formula E.
True. Oh, unbelievably. It was Mitch Evans who won the race from last on the grid.
That is crazy.
It was a chaotic race. We saw Pascal Wehrlein upside down against a wall at one point, reminiscent of his time at Monaco in 2017. Taylor Barnard, in his first race for McLaren as a full-time driver, got a podium.
Oh, it's not a bad showing.
Although I really think it could have been a bit more, because he had a bit more energy at the end of the race than the two in front. But it was a great race for Evans. Victory from 22nd on the grid, followed by Da Costa and Ricky Barnard, with his teammate Sam Bird close behind. Both McLarens had drive-through penalties in that race, demonstrating what a truly crazy spectacle Formula E has become. And the new car is only fueling that. I think the new dynamic provided by the Gen 3 Evo and all-wheel drive, a more powerful attack mode, I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's created a lot more chaotic races, because I have not been a big fan of Formula E before, because I think they are whiny and quite annoying to listen to. But this season, I have to admit, I've given it a bit of a go, and from what I have seen, it's utter carnage.
It's brilliant.
It's crazy. It's like,
never been anything less than that.
Yeah. I think I've been missing that in boring old F1 dominance land. So it is a nice, refreshing thing to see that there are still motorsport series that do provide absolutely wild races every now and again.
Yeah. The next one was Mexico, and it was all to play for between the Porsche drivers in qualifying as they locked out the front row. And it was Wehrlein who took pole for the second year in a row at Mexico City. You know how much faster his lap time was than last year? 2.3 seconds.
Oof, that's an improvement.
That's how much quicker the new car is with the all-wheel drive.
Damn.
Oliver Rowland won the race with a pretty good late call. He conserved his battery. That was a late safety car, and he utilised it perfectly, and the new attack mode as well. I think he really, really knocked it out the park that weekend. It was just such a stellar performance. I think it's great to see Nissan up there. I feel like they've been really absent in Formula E for a few years now. They really lacked in the Gen 2 era, and the Gen 3 era they didn't even start particularly well either. So to see them with the Gen 3 Evo car up there fighting for wins, with Oliver Rowland especially, and the two McLarens not that far behind, which also use the Nissan powertrain, I think it's really good to see, and it shakes up the order a bit from the regular Porsche versus Jaguar with Andretti. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the rest of this season. Rounds 3 and 4 at Jeddah were arguably the most interesting because they introduced the pit boost.
That was it. That was quite a cool thing to watch happen.
That was quite interesting, although for me, I found it quite difficult to follow during that portion of the race. There was a lot going on with, like, just your standard attack modes and then the pit boosts. I think it was an interesting introduction. It's been long awaited as well. That's been in development for years now, and it's great to finally see it actually used on a race weekend. So I hope they do that more often and sort of utilize it more.
Yeah, it did deliver some good racing, especially towards the end with that on the first, what was it, the Saturday race?
Yeah.
Where, what's his name? Won?
It was Gunter who won.
Gunter, yes. The last corner
that
overtake.
was stunning.
That was amazing. I was watching
he was on fire that weekend.
Yeah.
Another different winner, DS Penske back in the fight. I'm really happy to see that as well.
I'm not. I hate DS Penske.
Oh. But yeah, Oliver Rowland, he came second, and that gave him the championship lead.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. That's a big shake-up from Gen 3 years of previous. But that could all change in 24 hours because there were 2 races that weekend. Oliver Rowland, just after taking the championship lead, he won the race on the second day over Taylor Barnard. So the Nissans are really taking a step forward this year. Again, as I said, it's really good to see them in the fight.
Yeah, they do look a bit quick.
Taylor Barnard took pole position. I think he's the youngest ever pole sitter in Formula E,
Damn.
which that's quite impressive.
Mm.
He's only 20 years old. Yeah. And Roland's experience just allowed him to drive to the front and lead laps while saving energy. And unlike the previous race, he kept as much energy as he could for the final lap. He didn't give it up at the final corner, despite pressure from Taylor Barnard, and he managed to grab the victory. Jake Hughes took his first podium of the season for his Maserati team, and with a great late race push, and he contended with an aggressive battle with Taylor Barnard. What else do I follow? NASCAR, it's the big thing. It's my big thing. We've had 4 races already. William Byron getting the dub at the Daytona 500. That was a pretty crazy race. We saw Ryan Preece flip through the air for the second time in 2 years at the Daytona International Race Circuit. The heavens opened up only 10 laps into the race, and we saw a very long red flag period of several hours before they dried up the track and got going again. And then there was another red flag for weather. That wasn't nowhere near as long, though, and we got a good race in the end. It was practically dominated by the DS Penske. I'm still in the Formula E. It was practically dominated by the Penske's up front with Joey Logano and Austin Cindric. Logano clearly had the fastest car all day, but he kind of messed it up. He caused a collision with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but with about 17 laps to go, taking himself out. He was pretty much like he was the most dominant car of the day, and he kind of ruined that, I'm afraid. William Byron took the victory after racing to the checkered flag. There was no caution called on the final lap when a wreck happened that took out about 9 drivers in front of him, unfortunately. And Tyler Reddick came second, and Jimmy Johnson in his, I don't know which start it was. It's like 699th or something, 599th start. Let me grab that. Yeah, that was his 699th start in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he got third in his part-time ride for the team he owns, Legacy Motor Club. He will not make an appearance until the Coke 600 later in the year, which will mark his 700th start. The Ambetter Health 400, better known as the Atlanta Spring Race, was actually a really good race. The track is aging nicely, which means the asphalt is getting less grippy. It means the drivers are a little bit more on edge. It makes the cars harder to drive. And then you get a bit more variance. You get a bit more racing going on. But it's still a super speedway. It's still flat all the way around. And as a result, the most experienced drivers rise to the top. Christopher Bell won the race in what was arguably a 3-wide finish stolen from us because of a caution on the last lap, which is a complete contradiction to the week prior where they wrecked on the last lap but kept it green to the line. There's not a lot else to report on for that race because a lot happened but not a lot happened.
Yeah.
It was a slow burner, but Carsten Hocevar made some enemies in the 77 car for Spire. He had a fight with Kyle Busch. Not a physical altercation, but Kyle Busch was unhappy with him over the radio. He wrecked Ryan Blaney into turns 1 and 2, giving him a bump in the wrong place at the wrong time. So he made an enemy there. He was also seen having an altercation of words with Ross Chastain afterwards. But Carsten Hocevar, I love the guy, man. He's not here to make friends. He's so quick. He's really dragging that Spire car to places it's not been before. And I think Spire has probably one of the strongest lineups this season with Hocevar, Michael McDowell moving from Front Row Motorsports. I think that's a very good, experienced pair of hands to have in the garage. And Justin Haley, who moved over from Rick Ware Racing last season with Rodney Childers as a crew chief. That's a great lineup. I can't wait to see Spire doing well this year. I think there is a win in sight. At least one.
Yeah.
And I think definitely on the super speedways, they've got to be one to watch out for, especially in the hands of Haley and Childers. Then we visited COTA for week 3. The Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix was won by Christopher Bell. He took a second race in a row around the Circuit of the Americas. He had a great late battle with Kyle Busch and William Byron, but eventually he came out on top it was a bit of a slow burner as well. It was a
Yeah.
good race for Kota standards. They adjusted the layout, so they cut out the back straight. They go from the
Okay.
S's
Yeah.
straight across down to the final sector. And I think that works really nicely
Mm.
because you get a lot more laps. And I think if you're at the track and you've paid for a seat, you've gone from watching 65 laps of a race to 95 laps of a race
It's not bad.
or something like that. So you get a better, you know,
Experience.
experience.
Yeah.
Connor Zilic made his Cup Series debut in the Red Bull 87 car. That's great to see. Unfortunately, his day ended early when he crashed into the wall, ricocheting off his own teammate who spun not too far in front. Couldn't see where he was going and went spinning off into the wall. And this weekend, or last weekend just now, the Shriners Children's 500 around Phoenix. Christopher Bell took his 3rd win in a row,
Damn.
joining an elite list of drivers such as Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson and Richard Petty. Driving the number 20 Reese's Fine Foods Toyota, he fought hard against JGR teammate Denny Hamlin at the end of a chaotic race consisting of 10 cautions. 10
Jesus.
cautions and mixed strategies involving different tyre compounds. The Cup Series returned to Phoenix with an option tyre made of a softer compound of rubber, which is over half a second a lap faster at the cost of longevity. William Byron started on the pole alongside reigning Cup champion Joey Logano, who won at this track just 4 months ago. Catherine Legg made her first Cup Series start this weekend. She's the first female Cup driver since 2018 and the 17th female ever to start a Cup race. Legg is a hugely accomplished Briton, best known for becoming the first female winner in a major North American open-wheel racing series in 2005. Legg started today's race in last place and spun herself just 4 laps into her debut, fighting against her own tight race car. She said she put too much wheel in it and ended up spinning.
That's how it happens.
Several cautions happened today. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. spun around after a domino effect collision between Gregson, Custer and Gilliland. Joey Logano, after leading, got a drive-through penalty for being too fast entering the pit road. McDowell's right rear tyre blew entering turn 3. A huge pile-up on lap 99 saw about 7 or 8 cars wiped out, which is unusual for a short track to see a big wreck like that, but it's quite a stack-up on the exit of turns 3 and 4 because it's a really wide track.
Yeah.
And you can use the apron, the flat of the racetrack, so you can go up the inside there, but you all kind of squeeze up on the exit of the final corner. I won't go through all of the cautions here, but Catherine Legg caused another caution herself when she washed up the track into Josh Berry at turn 2 and 3, and spun and collected Daniel Suarez in the process. Bell and Hamlin restarted the race with just 2 laps to go on the front row, and Bell was unable to clear him over the final laps. But he dived for the win at the final corner, pushing Hamlin wide and taking a shot from Kyle Larson behind to propel the number 20 across the line in first, in the second closest finish in Phoenix in Cup Series history.
Damn.
Yeah. What else have we watched? Formula E's Evo sessions. So back to the world of Formula E in the Evo sessions, which were, I'm going to say it, overhyped and underdelivered massively. I was expecting a race.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Mr. Beast and Supercar Blondie and Brooklyn Beckham and Sergio Aguero and everyone. I wanted to see them race, but it was just a glorified practice session.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like that well shown. I mean, we were saying
No.
earlier it was pretty much just a few clips on TikTok or Instagram, and I mean the most notable thing that I think we both saw was Mr. Beast kind of spinning and putting it into the wall,
Yeah.
which is a crazy sentence to say.
Yeah. Only in 2025.
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess when you've got a load of famous people and you're like, oh, we'll chuck him into a Formula E car, everybody's going to be hyped about it.
Yeah.
So.
The idea of the Evo sessions was to, I've got it here. Some big news in the weeks leading up to Jeddah include plans for Formula E's first Evo session, a celebrity and influencer race to be held at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium on the 5th to 6th of March. Due to the collapse of plans for a Thai E-Prix, Formula E ended up with a huge gap to fill between Jeddah and Homestead, Miami, prompting a new, interesting and relevant idea. Formula E CEO Jeff Dodd told The Race last month the idea was to advertise the cars, technology and the series while raising the profile of the drivers through social media, celebrities and influencers with vast followers. He labelled the drivers as superhero heroic and wants to showcase the challenge of driving the Formula E cars and not just anyone can drive a Formula E car. Each celeb will be trained and guided by a driver for a race around Miami's Hard Rock Stadium and part of the F1 track. Some big names lined up include, as we said, Brooklyn Beckham, Sergio Aguero, Amelia Hartford, Supercar Blondie, Mr. Beast, to name a few. So, yeah, we thought we were getting a race, to be honest, and I said we were getting a race, but it ended up being a timed session, which is a bit unfortunate.
I mean, they didn't even really show that they were that hard to drive. I mean, other than Mr. Beast spinning, which is like easily done by anybody. I think I saw a few clips of Sergio Aguero absolutely sending it into a few turns, and it seemed like he'd driven a Formula E car for all his life.
I think if you ended up comparing them against actual Formula E race weekend lap times, you would see a difference, but they didn't. It really was just a practice session. Pretty much. And we didn't really see a lot. It wasn't broadcasted or televised anywhere. It wasn't streamed on YouTube. It wasn't on ITVX or anything. So that was really disappointing, to be honest.
I mean, they build up so much about it being to like try and boost the brand a little bit, but I mean, if you're not going to give it any attention all the time of day, then it's not really going to do that, is it?
No. They said a documentary series or a documentary will follow later in the year that sort of follows the influencers' like perspective and their training and everything leading up to it.
It just seems a little bit.
But yeah, when the event itself just doesn't really land, it's a bit of a letdown, really. IndyCar started as well. I started watching that. St. Petersburg was the other weekend, and that was the first IndyCar race I've ever watched.
Is it?
It was a bit disappointing, to be honest, but I believe that is just the track. It's very difficult to pass. The tyre wear was a bit odd. I can't even remember who won, I'm afraid. Someone will correct me on that, I know. Someone we know will correct me on that. But it was Alex Palou. Well done, him.
What a surprise.
That's about all I have, really. Of course, by this time next week, there'll be more stuff to cover. We'll have an Australian Grand Prix under our belt.
Yep.
And ready to report. There will be another NASCAR race this weekend, obviously, as there is every weekend.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed us rambling on for probably a bit too long.
That was quite a while.
That was quite a long while, yeah. We didn't intend on doing this long, but we just sort of ended up talking for a long time. So we hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for listening to our many talks. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you again shortly. Bye.
See ya.